Hello and welcome to the third episode of Tailoring in Conversation. In this series, I'll be talking to tailors from all around the globe to gain a better insight into their worlds. My guest for today is Bernardo La Guardia. Bernardo is a bespoke cutter and tailor who's currently based in Milan. You may be familiar with his work from his days at Sartoria Abitus or from his interview with Matthew Paluzzo at discoverartifacts.com. Bernardo is currently working for one of the big luxury names in Italy, and during our conversation we'll be talking about tailoring schools, tailoring businesses, his journey into tailoring, and more. Let's get started. Bernardo, thank you very much for making the time. It's been a pleasure to have this opportunity. There are many things that I would like to talk to you about, and before I go into anything, this is a question I ask everyone. If me and you were friends and we were 10 years old, what would we be doing right now?
This is quite a good start for an interview. I don't know. Maybe you should move to the second question, and as I figure out something, I will get back to this.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we could maybe phrase it differently. So
no, I don't know actually. Probably as I was a very I wasn't very friendly with other kids as I was a kid, and I spent most of my time reading, and this sounds so dull, and playing with Lego, a lot of Lego, every time, every day.
So the books you have in the background there, those are all your books?
Yes, these are part of my books.
Part of your books, okay.
Yes,
you're
actually,
a professional reader.
On this on this side, I am very lucky because my father is a professor, and we had a huge library in our house, like 20,000 books. So
right,
this is
so
actually a very small part of it.
Do you get the reading from your dad's side?
Not that much, because we have slightly different interests.
All right. Okay. So what kind of books were you reading?
When I was 10, or right now?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, give me like a general kind of like in your childhood years.
Probably it should have been something about history, which is my my biggest interest, as well as now it still is. So probably something about history.
Right. Okay. So a lot of history, you say, and Lego, right? Were you?
Yes.
But you say you weren't friendly either. So if me and you were playing Lego, would you share your Lego with me, or would you kind of like push me into the corner and say, go bring your own Lego?
I would say I was very sharing, but actually I wasn't. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well. No, that's okay.
This is
I would
such
still
a
play.
poor introduction for myself, but
no, it's great because we're sitting here and collaborating on this highly technically difficult application called whatever it is, and we still managed to get along. So that's okay. So okay, you like a lot of reading and you play with a lot of Lego. Were you kind of like the type of kid that was more into things and thinking about objects and maybe like gadgets, or were you someone who was more thinking just about concepts and like abstract ideas and things like that?
Definitely the second.
Oh, really? So you're philosophically orientated a little bit, you could say.
Philosophically, yes.
Okay.
Yes, let's just say that I ended up studying tailoring after I studied at the Classical Lyceum, and it was basically all of a sudden and really unexpected to myself. So yes, I was always more on the theory of things. I don't know how to say.
Yeah.
But actually, I think I still am like this, even in the approach to craft. I think is more of a way of discovering something more about theory than the other way around.
So you prefer to discover things rather than just memorize the things that are already discovered, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. What were you studying?
What? Sorry.
What were you studying?
When you say that,
When you were just before you did tailoring.
It was basically high school. It's the I started in when I was 18. But the high school I went to was I don't know if you have anything similar in England, but it has a strong focus on Latin, Greek, philosophy, and all of that stuff. But it was not a university course. It was basically high school. Yeah.
Okay. So what made you go from someone who's more thinking about ideas than things to then go and study and work with your hands on things and on these, well, you could say artifacts, more or less?
Do you want the truth?
Yes, definitely.
I could say something fancy, but I will not. Actually, it was my mother. Because
Right.
after actually when I was about to finish the high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do after at the university. And so I was pretty much into clothes, but as a client, I like suits and ties and all of that stuff. And my mother said to me, instead of go and lay dead for years in the university studying something you don't care about, why don't you just try something else like a craft? And so basically this is how it started. And I liked it very much in first place. I was pretty scared because I've always been like the kind of person who falls in love with things and then like after 6 months just throw them away and go with something else.
Bored.
But yes, a lot. But in this case, I mean, with tailoring, it didn't happen. So it makes me believe that is the right choice for me.
Okay, well, so does your mother have anything fashion or tailoring as a background, or was it just like?
No. She's a librarian.
Did she specifically recommend you tailoring, or was it like, oh, do something on the craft side?
No. It was more of something, but go with and work with your hands. Basically, that was the idea.
Right. And so why didn't you go into like, let's say, making clay sculptures or doing like some other work? Why tailoring?
Actually, because as I said, I was very much into clothing, and by accident I read a book which is probably the book is The Gentleman by Mr. Bernardo La Guardia. And it was actually it was not a book of mine. I bumped into it at my friend's house, and but reading that, I discovered that there was the possibility to make clothing bespoke. Because I loved clothing, but I had no idea that there was something like a bespoke tailor. I mean, I knew tailors existed, but I thought they were just guys making adjustments to ready-to-wear garments, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it just basically opened my mind like watermelon, and so I went for it.
All right. Okay. Okay. So you decide to start tailoring, and you're thinking about, well, how am I going to get into this kind of like work experience, and how can I get it as a job? What were your opportunities? Because you said you started when you were 18, right?
Yep.
What opportunities did you have, and what was your environment like when you tried to find a place to learn and to work, perhaps?
Well, first of all, let's say that I was living near Rome at the time, in a smaller city. And at the time, there were like 2 or 3 bespoke tailors still working, very old, of course. And but in the first place, I didn't go to them. I just go with a school in Rome, because I found a website. I went there. I didn't know a thing about the craft, the trade. So I think, let's start with the school. And I started with it. I was very disappointed in the first year because I wasn't learning as I expected.
Right.
So
So
yeah.
what were you expecting, and what were you given?
Well, in that case, basically, I mean, let's just say, I kept asking why about things, and nobody was giving me a fucking answer, basically. So
Right, right.
so that was very disappointing, because I knew that craftsmanship need experience, like
Yeah.
the everyday work and practice on the same stuff every day for a million times.
Yes,
I
yes.
knew that about the workshops, but I expected from a school to be slightly different and more a school. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
not. It was not, because basically it was run by tailors. So the approach to the craft was the, let's say, vintage approach to the.
So would you say that they were approaching it as if it was their business instead of it was being a
Yes,
school, the kind of thing?
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
And so I was a bit disappointed about this. Uh, After it's been like 10 years now, I can say that wasn't so bad, because I understood that it's
So
very,
what
very
wasn't so
difficult
bad?
to.
The school that you were there?
That's cool. That's cool. Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Probably I was more disappointed that I should have been, basically, but I
Okay,
didn't,
okay, okay.
because I later understood that it's very, very difficult to teach this craft, and
Yeah.
especially if you don't have that kind of experience derived from having been a student on a
Yeah.
different type of school or high school or university. So this is basically, I think, generational difference, a generational gap,
Mm.
which is very difficult to fill.
Did most of the people in your class feel the same frustrations, or were they kind of like more easygoing about it?
They probably they were easygoing, but they felt the same.
Right, right, right. Well, this is a common thing because most of the people you would speak to is they would say that when they were taught, the person who taught them wasn't really telling them why they were doing certain things. And the most common answer is like, this just makes people laugh when you say it, is like, because this is the way we've been doing it for a long time. Like
Yeah,
internationally, any language you speak, any tailor you go to who's kind of like on the older side will tell you that. And so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
become
yeah.
almost like a caricature. Right. Okay. So then you went to the school. Were you kind of like getting opportunities from the teachers there as well, or was it something completely outside of the domain of work?
No, Yeah, it was outside. It was outside basically because the tailors running that school, they were very, very focused on their business, and they had this idea of making the school for business.
Right.
So the approach wasn't really good. So I moved back to my little town, and I went to a tailor, and I asked them kindly if I could go there and learn the craft, and so it actually started that way.
Right, right. Okay. Just a question about that school. What exactly were you taught? Were you taught cutting and making, or which one of the aspects were you kind of like being taught?
We were taught both, but in a very messy way. So we did some
Right.
cutting and then some making and some trouser making. But then, like after 2 hours in the same day, we shifted to waistcoats. So it
Oh,
and we were we were too many. We had too few teachers. We
uh-huh.
had like just two heavy irons to work with, so it was a mess.
Right, right. Okay. And has that school improved now? Are you aware of any changes that they've done, or does it still exist? Or
Actually, yeah, it still exists. I don't know if it improved. I know that our mutual friend Matthew Peluso,
yes, yeah.
he studied there for 1 year before he came to
Okay.
me to be an apprentice in my old shop. He
Yeah.
studied there, and I think that he felt the same way I felt.
Right, right. Okay. So, well, I would assume that even if progress was made, it was not enough to be like a change, let's say.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So then you go to this tailor and you ask politely whether you can work there. How many? Well, how skilled were you at the time when you went to that tailor and asked for like work experience?
Uh, Basics like
Okay.
I don't know, like welt pockets, breast
Yeah.
pockets,
Yeah.
some sleeve making, very little about facings, no
Yeah.
collar, no shoulders, no very basics.
Okay. And how did that go? What was the journey there?
It went actually very good because that shop it was a very small one. We were three, me included, and there were these two brothers running the workshop and working there. And they were trained in a very, very big cutting school back in Rome, like I think in the late 50s or early 60s, like this. And it was the school created by the old Domenico Caraceni.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so it's something very, very old and dusty, but
Yeah.
very very strong technical formation. And
Okay.
these two old gentlemen never moved out this town, so they were I mean they used to work in a very old way, very traditional, with very little like aesthetic approach to tailoring. So the jacket, it was not beautiful, let's say that, but it was good.
Yeah.
It was not expensive at all. But everything was made by hand, hand padded canvases. Everything was done as it should be. Just vintage in the taste and a little, I don't know, very let's say when something is from outside a bigger city. Speaking of taste, I don't know the term.
Well, I think they call it like a West End thing here. Like
Yeah.
West End
Okay.
tailors were better than East End tailors, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, but the fact that they were absolutely not glamour at all. It was actually a very big opportunity to me because they stayed humble. They were very keen to teach. They had absolutely no idea of what craft jealousy could be. So they showed me everything they could. It was a lot to me back then. It wouldn't be like a lot to me right now, but it was very 100% their stuff, not less.
So two questions I have about that. If you say they didn't have a lot of style, but they were technically very capable, correct?
Yeah.
Now, if with the skills that you have now, and if you would compare now, would you still say that they were technically very, compared to what you know today, would you still say they were technically very on a very high level?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the possibilities they had at the time,
Yeah.
their age, their experience. I think they didn't have internet, they didn't have Instagram to look at the stuff you make, or I don't know, the next Korean tailor makes. For being in such a out of time and space shop. I mean, it's not easy for anyone. For them, what they did, it was enough. I respect a lot what they could achieve with those little means.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a very interesting thing for me. And you mentioned that they didn't have anything like jealousy, and that would prevent them from teaching you.
Not at all.
Why do you think that was? What kind of mentality did they have?
I don't know. Basically, I really don't know why. Probably the fact that they didn't have that kind of huge success in terms of fame and money success. Probably this aspect made them remain very conscious about the low extraction of our craft, because basically this is it. There is a lot of people today thinking that our craft could be compared to some kind of art. I don't know, like with the capital A. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know if you think that. I don't.
Why not?
We can discuss on this, but
yes,
think that I think that this kind of experience, maybe not so satisfying, kept them closer to the I don't know how to say, to the lower ranks of the of the working class in the craft.
Right.
So
right.
they
would you
they
say?
had they
Sorry, go
they it was clear to me that they had absolutely no idea of what difference could make if they could have decided not to teach me how to cut a sleeve.
Right,
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it seems to me that what you're saying, more or less, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they weren't really into the world of glamour, and the exposure they had was not as big as what we would have maybe today with like Instagram, and so they didn't felt as if there was any kind of big threat for them because they didn't have that much to lose, and so it kind of like kept them close to their own thing and what they were doing, so that they could just
Yeah.
deal with the people they had, something like that. Do you think that most
But
people who
actually, I
do
think
have
it was not just this, because I mean there is also this thing, but it's not just this, because it would be a bit petty. There was also the idea of the I don't know, the core of the craft. I mean,
yeah
I think that they didn't have the perception of this, but I think that if I could ask them today about this, they would say, yes, that this is the craft. This is all we have. It's the craft. It's not the business. It's not the money. It's not the clients. It's not the fame. It's just the craft. And why shouldn't we share this? Because it's
yes
pointless. Because I think the problem with other kind of tailors or stylists is that they don't want to share the craft because they're afraid that in that way they will share the success or the money or the
right
it's a
yeah.
logical gap. I don't know.
Do you think that also one of the additional reasons for people not wanting to show things is that they are not quite secure about the reasons that they are using certain techniques? Like, for example, they know what they're doing roughly, but because they can't articulate it, if someone else asks them, like, why are you doing that? Purely because they can't articulate it, they feel like, I really don't want to have this conversation. And so they avoid it, maybe because of that.
No, I don't think so. I think that aspect, of course, it exists, but
Yes.
the jealousy of the craft is not about this.
Yeah.
Because I think that the perception of not knowing the why of what you're doing
Yeah.
is the first, I don't know, like spring to share knowledge, at least to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, it's I completely agree, and it's an interesting thing because sometimes what I think about or what I've seen is that there are also tailors who not only are they not successful in their work and in their, well, they usually don't have a business, but even if they are freelance or whatsoever, there are some tailors that aren't really that successful, but at the same time, they don't want to engage with anyone about any technical conversations. So if you want to talk to them about, like, hey, let's just figure a few things out on this collar or on this lapel, they find it very difficult to have a conversation that is outside of what they have always done. And so they can't think of new things. What do you think that is the reason? Do you think that's just simply lack of knowledge or lack of communication, or just what do you think?
I think it's basically lack of curiosity.
Lack of
It's like
curiosity.
stepping out. Yeah, I think it's like stepping out of a comfort zone is not for everyone. Let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is absolutely correct, man. I completely stand by that. So, okay, how long were you with these tailors when you were there?
I remained with them for 2 years and a half, basically,
2 year and a half.
and
Okay.
later 6 months more, but like not continuously, because I actually at the time I started working in a tailoring shop in Rome. I was
Okay.
doing another academy, much better one. So like 2 days per week, I was going to them and helping them with the fittings and stuff like that.
Okay. So then, did you find the second academy better than the first one, or better than the previous workplace, or was it something just additional? You were just too curious, let's say.
It will be both. I mean, the second school I went to was definitely better. We were 8 students and we had 2 teachers. And
Ah,
these two
okay.
teachers, they were actually teachers. I mean, that was all what they were doing. So they
Right.
were they were retired tailors, and spending their time to teach to us, both making and cutting. So it was definitely better.
Okay. And then you went to this other tailoring company. Are you still working there, or is that are you not there anymore?
It was a super short experience because I had some trouble with the boss. Like 4
What
months.
yeah. Were you asking too many questions?
No, it's fine. I will not say the name because I don't want him to be bad reviewed
Sure.
by me. Actually, he doesn't deserve this, but he's a good guy after all. He's not a tailor. Basically, this is the problem. He was a very good businessman running a tailor shop, but he was not a tailor. He was not a cutter. So we had our issues, and in the end, I was still in the academy. So I decided this experience is not that helpful, so I quit.
Okay. Well, here's a question about: do you think that business people can successfully set up a tailoring company? What are your thoughts on that? Business people who try to set up a tailoring company, or maybe vice versa, like tailors. Do you think that traditional basic tailors can set up a very successful business? How are your thoughts on that?
So let's start with the second.
Okay.
I think that in the past, yes, a tailor could do that. I think that today is impossible because as far as I think that the quality and the consistency of our garments should be like the window of
Yeah.
our businesses, it's not enough. A good suit
Right.
sadly doesn't sell himself. So I think that today is not possible anymore for a tailor to do everything like social media management and
Yes.
running the company from the financial aspect. Stay focused on professional growth, and it is just too much,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay.
About the first part of your question, I think that it is possible for a man who has a strong technical formation to run a tailoring business. It's very, 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 very difficult because it's super difficult to talk between an experienced tailor and someone who is not a tailor. But this, I think, should be this communication gap should be filled in the next like 10 or 20 years because it's a generation problem. Because for
Right.
let's say I am not a tailor, I want to start a business, I need a cutter, a senior one, a good one. It's basically
Yeah.
impossible that a senior cutter is eager to listen to what I want in terms of like I don't know, a shoulder should fit. Like I don't want drape in the chest. I don't want, you know, style
Yeah.
mixed with cutting. It's very, very difficult. But if you find that kind of um, tailor able to communicate with someone who is not, and a businessman ready to step down when it comes to technical stuff, I think it's even better than a tailor doing everything by himself.
Right. Do you think that if a tailor decides to, let's say, suppose you have a tailor who says, hey, I want to start just my own little shop somewhere, and as I get more clients, I'm going to bring in people who will do like things like you said, the management, the social media. Do you think that that could be done successfully, or do you still think that the owner of the company should really be someone who understands business, and then have someone who knows everything on a technical level, but is not involved in running and strategizing and planning for the business?
Uh, I think that it's definitely possible to start with like a small shop and slowly grow. I also think that you don't need to wait that much. I don't know, it's not a shortcut what I'm talking about, but it's the it's knowing the depth and the difficulty of all the aspects of running a business. So if I needed like 5 years to learn my craft, and like 100% of my time dedicated to that, is that possible that I can spend other 5 years of my life with 100% of my time dedicated to learning how to manage a business properly, and just leaving aside the craft? I don't think so. I think that the ways of working together are more suitable for our time. But but I also think that one solution does not eliminate the other.
Sure. Well, the impression that I'm getting from what you say is that, let's say, roughly within the next maybe like 10, 15 years, we're going to have an entire new generation of tailors that have the similar age as we have, who are in their 30s, their 20s, and that they are not only adapted to modern day living, but also modern day technology, and they can communicate a lot faster. They are tech savvy. They are just they have different skills when it comes to communication, and maybe a different mentality, and that would start to encourage people to maybe collaborate more, and then we will see kind of like more new tailoring businesses. Is that kind of like the landscape that you're sketching out here?
Yes. Basically, this is it.
Right.
Because I think that the future of this craft, I think the future in general, but of our craft in particular, is very connected to the consistency of everything is related to it. So not just the suit, but everything involved in this. So marketing, business management, everything. If you want to have consistency in every aspect, you need to give people space to dedicate to that, which means that the time you spend growing your skill set, which means also what do you read when you go to bed, what do you think when you go out on a bike, is related to your specific skills and craft or job or anything else. At least this is how at least I think my professional experience has grown in these years. So I expect that from the same man I'm working with, speaking of management or marketing.
Yeah. Well, this is a good, I think, kind of like thing to cover. The most. Well, I can't speak for most, so I'm not going to do that. To keep it kind of like a little bit more simple, most tailors that I know and I've seen and I've kind of like talked to, obviously they are individuals with very different lives and very different backgrounds and interests, but they roughly have the same kind of lifestyle. And if they are, let's say, tailors working in a company or they are freelance, most of their time just goes into tailoring and their focus goes into tailoring. So if they have spare time, even that goes to tailoring. It's like, we were just talking, like, it's the same for me. It's like, hey, how many days do you work? Well, 7 days. It's like, oh, you don't have weekends? It's like, no, I have, but I just do work. So you could say that, yeah, there is a lot of passion, but there is also this intense focus on it. Now, if I would, let's say, look at people maybe from a different field or different job aspect, it's very difficult for me, at least, to make the judgment that, oh, everyone who is in let's say, in art school has exactly the same life. I mean, art school is a bit similar. Let's say people in finance maybe. I still find people from different jobs have a lot more diverse lifestyles, and it's difficult to compare and be like, oh yeah, most of them do the same thing. They have their weekends, they take holidays, whereas most tailors, they're like 24/7, 12 hours a day, they're just sewing. Do you think that this is a lifestyle that the tailors choose for, or do you think that the nature of tailoring is just, if you touch it, it will take over your life, and it just will take over your life? What do you think about that? Have you experienced the similar things?
Yes, not for myself. I mean, I know that this kind of work can be, I mean, it can make you work like 24/7.
Yeah.
But again, I think it is not the nature of the craft. I think, once again, lack of curiosity. Because I think that if you do that every single minute of your life, you have absolutely no compelling other interests.
Right.
At
You
least
almost have no life.
I am. What? Sorry.
Speaking for myself, yeah, it's as if we have no life then. Yeah.
No, because I think this basically depends on how your mental approach to things works. I need to. I mean, my main interest is, of course, tailoring, but to do that, I have the physical need to nurture it with something else.
Right. What do you do? What do you use as an additional, let's say, nurturing that helps you not only with your tailoring, but at the same time it helps you to maybe not think about tailoring, or develop your mind and your thoughts in a different direction?
Let's say about noble stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very, I am very much into architecture.
Right.
And I am in a strange perspective, which is not the design perspective, but the sociological aspect of it.
Tell me more.
And this is a fun fact. Actually, this thing too comes out of tailoring readings. Because a few years ago, my father gifted me with a small book from one of the major architects in Western history of architecture, which is Adolf Loos.
Yeah.
And that was a book about clothing. And so I discovered this fun fact for me at the time: why an architect is writing so good and smart stuff about clothing. And then I discovered why, reading something else from the same guy, and is basically the idea that clothing and studying the fashion and how people dresses and how the industry of the whole textile industry works is just a way of living in cities, and it's deeply connected
Right.
with the development of social living in cities. And the development of cities and the development of fashion is so deeply connected, which is almost scary when you find out how some kind of habits and some kind of clashes in social history come together. And it's a very enlightening thing. So
So
this is
if
basically
I
my
no, this is great. So if I understand correctly, you could say that fashion architecture, primarily architecture, maybe a little bit of fashion as well, probably as well, reflects the current, let's say, psyche of a society at that time. Would you be able to say that?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes.
Which do you think influences one the most? Is it more like the society that influences the architecture, or the architecture that influences the society?
No, I don't think that there is one before the other. I think they're just different symptoms of social tendencies, basically. Let's say this. It's very difficult to me to speak in English about this kind of topics because they're quite
Yeah.
theoretical, but I'm trying to.
Sure, that's okay. How do you think that tailoring does the same as architecture does? Like when do you think tailoring is some sort of an indicator, like let's say the demand for tailoring or the visibility of tailoring? Do you think that that's also some sort of a indicator of where we are in our society, and what we appreciate, and the things we value?
Yes, I definitely think so. I would love if it was exactly as you said. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it reflects mostly how major media tend to tell things for other
Mm-hmm.
industries and about other issues. But it's basically the same.
Yeah, how well do you think tailoring is represented in general? I mean, most of the representation I think now comes on from tailors themselves, having like their profiles and stuff. But even taking that into account, do you think that tailoring is something that is still misunderstood by many, or do you think no, it's pretty much out there and it's one on one? It is what it says it is.
No, it's very misrepresented.
Ah,
And I
even
think
by the
that this
tailors.
I think that the volume of the voice of tailors representing themselves is very, very, very low.
Mm.
Basically because we are too few, and we're not so relevant in terms of mass of business. This is the main problem about ourselves talking about this. On the other side, I think that in the last like 10 years, the whole tailoring world missed the biggest chance of its whole existence in centuries, because basically after I think the 2008 crisis, after like a couple of years from them, all the major brands of fashion took some claims that should belong strictly to tailoring and other quality
Such
crafts,
as?
and such as made to measure or bespoke or fatto a mano or artisanal
Yeah, yeah,
and all of that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Sustainable, ethical.
Sustainable, yeah, and all of the but this topic extends to the whole greenwashing thing of major
Yeah.
brands. But I think that it went deeply because they took the terms and they took also our chance to stand out for the first time after like 40 years. I mean, after the 70s and the 80s. At least I'm talking about Italy, but I think it's not that different in England. And so a lot of bigger brands started to do the sartoria line and
Right.
the bespoke experience and all of that stuff, but they didn't knew how to do that, and so they just used the superficial aspects of our craft, and tailors were so that was really fun when it started to happen. I was seeing other tailors, elder tailors. They were so happy about this. They were saying like, "Oh, finally, the bigger brands and the fashion biz finally is recognizing our value." And I was saying, "No, you're screwed forever, man. And but I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yes, 100%.
So
100%. Why do you think? Why do you think that tailors actually missed that opportunity? Do you think was it their age, or is it their mentality? Is it the way their business are operated? What do you think?
two aspects basically. One which is generational and social, which is culture.
Right.
I mean, at least in Italy, the former generation of tailors, which is not the one of our fathers, but of our grandfathers,
Yeah.
had this idea that tailoring was basically something to get away from. And so in the 70s and in the 80s, they took their kids away from the tailoring world. The kids studied at the university. They studied economics, they studied science or whatever, or marketing or law, and they forget about what their fathers were doing, fathers and mothers, of course. And because their fathers and mothers, they were the first to tell that craft was a bad one, and it's not a good one. Because I started to, they were always saying, I started to work like when I was 10, when I was 6, I was working 24/7 for 12 or 14 hours. I was sleeping under the counter and all of that stuff. And so
Yeah.
they missed the chance to be educated like they wanted their son to be, and that was right. But that chance missed created a generational void between them
Right.
and us. And that void was filled at that time by the bigger brands, like with the whole high-end fashion inception in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so this is the social and cultural aspect of this. The other one is also cultural, but related to how tailoring, the tailoring world is perceived inside and outside. Let's just say a slightly conservative world, slightly.
Mildly,
And
mildly.
yeah, mildly. And I think that this aspect is not encouraging forward thinking. And this is the second problem. So I personally knew tailors in years back. They were, man, you have to believe me, they were afraid of internet because they thought that having a website could make them lose their clients, and like a con. Like there is some con artist somewhere stealing clients via internet to us poor tailors. So
Yes. Why? So here's just a small thing. A lot of tailors are very, very sensitive about clients being stolen, right? Now,
yeah.
I've heard it so many times that tailors say, oh, this person worked with us and then they left and now they stole all our clients, or, you know, I don't want to bring apprentices because today they're going to learn everything and then tomorrow they're going to leave with all the clients. All of those stories. Why do you think there is such an obsession with client stealing rather than client generating, or why do you think that is? It's like it seems that people are more afraid for losing clients than to actually think of something and go out there and find new clients. What's happening there, do you think?
I don't know. Probably because the way of perceiving the tailoring trade as a modern business is something of our generation, whereas for the past generation, it was basically sitting on my kitchen counter, working for hours, being paid so badly that I am basically afraid of everything. I am also afraid of apprentices stealing not my clients, but my work.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
is it.
your skills. Yeah, yeah. Very, very okay. So I'd like to. We can talk about this for like hours, as you can
Yeah.
notice. I'd
Yeah.
like to talk. I'd like to talk a little bit more about you and your work. So let's say you did that second school, and then you were you had a brief work experience, which was not a good experience, as you said, and then you moved on. When did you start the work at your current workplace, and when did you start to really make things for yourself as well, and to experiment and kind of like explore the plateau?
I started working for myself back in 2013,
Okay.
working on my own in my apartment. I had my first 2 or 3 clients. It was good, and it was very enlightening on how stuff should be made. And that experience, it was short, but very enlightening. And that pushed me to avoid to go and work for someone else, but to start my own business. Back then, it was 2014, summer 2014, and
Right.
I had 3 partners, and we went on for 5 years, and then it went wrong between us. Let's say that.
Oh, right. Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Okay.
but about the work, I think that the chances of growing technically and professionally in general are so much bigger if you work on your own. You can experiment. You can make the biggest mistakes you can imagine, which are so important, because I think
Yeah.
that when you work all of your life under the wing of a master, you cannot really do a bigger mistake, like a huge one. But when you're alone, you definitely can, and it's so useful.
Yes.
So
It is also
uh,
very painful.
it's very painful, but no pain, no gain.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So I think that that decision was really one of the best decisions I've ever made. Even if it went wrong in the end, it was very, very, very useful, because I also had the chance to um, make tests with the things I was studying at the time. So I
Yeah.
practiced with like 10 different cutting systems, where in which tailoring shop you could do that. You cannot. And I
True.
think this is so important if you want to understand that in the end, all of the cutting systems are basically the same.
Yeah.
So
That is also a painful experience.
this is also a painful truth to discover, because
Yes.
in the first years, you are buying books and translating from unknown languages and unknown measuring systems, and I studied the imperial system for no reason at all. And so but it's a painful truth and very useful one,
Yes.
that
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm very interested in when you said that you found that. Well, I'd like to know what were the things you specifically learned when you were working with multiple people in the business you set up, and also you said that you found it very useful when you were on your own, and you learned a lot of things there as well. What would you say were the things that you could not have learned unless you were with other people, and what were the things apart from the mistake things and the things you mentioned that you only can learn when you're on your own?
well, working with others, trivial truth, is very important. um, as when I started working with other people, I was back at the time, I was the most experienced one. Well, experienced, not that experienced, but the most experienced one.
Yeah.
And I had this idea that my way of doing stuff was the only way, and everyone else should do. like I was doing. And it was painful, that too, but I learned to appreciate how others approach to also basic stuff like making a pocket or setting up a sleeve, because it's very it opens your mind. It makes you see that work from a different perspective, so you can both learn something different from what you've learned up to that time, and you can also have a double check with your knowledge, because when you work with other people would in any case ask you why you're doing that this way and not the way I am doing this. I was the one asking that way in the first place, so others were doing the same questions to me. And this is a very good way of growing your skill set and learning that there is not one truth and one single valid method of doing stuff, but there are a number of it. Working by myself was important because when you have no one else to help you, you really need to learn how to jazz. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
100%.
Okay. So
yes, but you could please do elaborate on it. Because there may be people watching this, and then maybe they're not there yet. Right. And
you're right. When you don't know how to do a thing and you need to do that thing at that time, you cannot call someone and ask for help, because maybe you're with a client at that moment. You have to brace yourself and try something, anything, and if it's good for you. You've learned something very valuable. If you're wrong, then I spent the most of my nights thinking about that, and all of that time spent in that way was so important to understand the reason of what I was doing and how to do that. This is it.
If you think about the times that you were on your own, and it's like, I don't know, 2:00 midnight, and you're like, sleep deprived, but there is this very serious technical issue that you have to figure out, otherwise, it's not going to happen for you. How did you approach problems without, let's say, having the prior knowledge or having the right answer or even knowing how to approach them? How did you tackle these problems in the time that you were learning and you weren't as experienced as you are maybe today?
Basically, ruining what I did well.
Right. Tell me a little bit more. That sounds very interesting.
Let's just say wrong setting of a sleeve, for example, or wrong cutting of the I don't know, the sleeve head, for example, or the collar width. I had a jacket very well made by myself. I didn't know why that one was good and the other one was bad. So let's just take the one that was really well made for no reason and rip the other parts and try to replicate the error. Because if you can make something wrong on purpose, then you know why that is wrong.
I love this. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. So, did you ever make anything wrong on purpose while others were looking, and they were like, "What's up with this guy? Why is he? Has he gone crazy, or what's happening here? Why is he doing it badly?"
It wasn't. No. I tried to make mistakes on purpose when nobody was looking. Because it's very difficult to, but basically, you know why? Because it always happened on client stuff. Because because first I had so little time to trying on like trial garments, and so I had to try on real stuff, and also working with no security net. I don't know how to say that. When you fall and there is something. Okay. I mean, you cannot ruin that stuff forever, you know. So let's ruin it, and so we had no choice. We have to make them good back. Okay.
Yes.
So yes, a lot of mistakes made on purpose on stuff, but always when nobody was looking at it.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good thing, because it's so counterintuitive to think like, let me look at the best thing I've made. Now let me take that apart and just mess it up to then replicate the fault and then understand the fault that way. Very, very smart. So then you started to experiment on your own things, and then what did you do after? What did you do after the business you had set up kind of like stopped functioning? And you say you were working with 3 people, it didn't work out for whatever reason. But you have to move along. So then you go to another workplace, is that correct?
Yeah, which is my current position.
Okay, so how was your approach this time, having worked on your own, but also with other people? Now you're going into this new position. Were you kind of like taking a very different approach to work, or was it just a continuation of the previous two phases, let's say?
It is a very different workplace, because it's in a very big company, and there are a lot of different things, different in the way they're developed inside the structure about work. So it is a bespoke workshop doing basically bespoke garments. But the fact that this place has been built up in a very big company with a whole network of side departments making ready-to-wear garments, industrial-made, made-to-measure garments, a whole office just for the pattern making on the computer. These whole reasons are that, I mean, these whole things are the reason why I accepted this place they offered me, because I wanted to see how bespoke tailoring can be made in a complete different environment from the traditional workshop we all are used to. And it was very fascinating at the beginning. It starts to be much less fascinating at the time, but I knew that when I started, so I knew that this couldn't last longer than like 2 or 3 years. But it's interesting, let's say so. So
it sounds like an environment with many opportunities, and
yes.
You also mentioned that patterns are made on the computer, for example, and things like that. And you also told me that you work on you're learning this new, making patterns on the computer. How do you find that, first of all, and how long do you think it's going to take for most tailors to see that as the normal way of doing things?
I think that in the first place, it sounds strange, of course, to me, because I had this idea of paper and pens and paper shears and all of the stuff we know very well. But let's face it, it's the future. So there must be something either good or bad, but something relevant about how these things are made right now. And the first thing that forced me to develop some kind of interest in this new way of working on bespoke is the fact that in the last like 50 or 70 years, basically nothing changed in terms of technology in the world of tailoring. Actually, in the last 300 years, basically nothing changed in terms of technology, keeping aside the cutting methods development. But about shears and threads and needles and machines, nothing changed. And when in the 80s and 90s, the fashion industry started to make like couture for women in a very high-end level of craftsmanship too. They move forward, whereas the tailors remain in the back lines. And I think that most tailors, even of our generation, are not ready for this leap of faith.
Why?
Let's call it like this.
Why?
Because there is so much romance about the dust and the rag with the it's more dirt than water actually inside the rag, but and I know you know. I also know that you don't use the rag, but you use the sprinkler, which I also do, because it's clean. You can use clean water with this. But anyway, yes. I think that most tailors of our generation are not ready for that because they are too much in love with the idea of tailors. And this is a big problem because they buy the way tailoring was told them when they were not in the trade. And most of them.
Well, you have to say that again. You just have to say that twice. That's like what? So what? They learned the trade from a time that wasn't theirs, basically.
Yes. So yes, this is it. I mean, it's like when you work in a bigger company. I can tell you this. I don't know if you ever worked in a bigger company, but the approach of the human resources to the workforce is like they have to sell their work to them, which is crazy, of course, because I work in this place, man. So I know how it works. You don't have to make me buy your shit because this is it.
Yeah.
But tailoring has the same problem. I mean, I also had this because I approached tailoring because my eyes were shining when I was in Savile Row watching at the windows of Gibson Hoax, but this is when you're watching at the window. When you're inside, you're the one making the window. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So
yeah.
So it shouldn't be allowed for you to believe to certain kind of stories, but sadly, it is what it is. It is.
How
like
do
this.
you think that? Maybe I don't know whether this was the case. It must have been like maybe like 1,000 years ago. I don't know, but I'm sure that 100 years ago they started doing things that the people from 500 years ago were doing, and they were like, "Hey, man, this is too old. We need to renew." And so what was then new has become old now, and that's the romance of today. When do you think, or how do you think, that the modern age and the new ways of doing tailoring and cutting patterns on the computer, which is, by the way, so much more sustainable because you don't waste too much paper and it's so much more accurate, plus you have Command Z always, which I wish I had Command Z in real life.
And also you can print like 50 patterns of the same client at the same time.
Yes, yes, exactly. So there are clearly, without any question, too many benefits for working that
Yes.
way. How do you think this can become the romance of tomorrow? And that when you say, I still cut my papers on paper, people look at you and be like, hey man, you're not being sustainable. Better switch over to digital because you're killing some trees. How do you think that switch can be made so that the clients as well don't think like, oh yeah, they're doing it on the computer, it's not romantic, whereas it's actually more precise and better for them as well?
I think it's very difficult because there is some marketing value in the traditional aspects of our craft. So the idea of telling people, hey, we're not making patterns out of brown paper, but out of a plotter and a computer,
Yeah.
it's not very fancy for those that have to make the marketing, and do
Yes.
the storytelling. I think the problem is the storytelling. Is what is the core of the message in the storytelling, making tailoring a thing worth of survive in the business world of today, and not be transformed in some kind of museum piece.
Right.
Because this is it. If I want to buy a museum piece, I can go to Japan and buy a kimono made by a craftsman, which is a living piece of art. This is the
Yeah.
idea Japanese have about some kind of
Yeah.
their craftsmanship, but they're dead. That stuff is dead. It can't go forward. So one thing we could do is declare that tailoring world is dead, because I think that it's easier if we leave all the loads behind and we're free to go forward. This one thing, and also we should try to make people in the textile business, which are not tailors, to understand that in a set of skills such as the one tailors have, so 36 degrees of skills like relations with clients, pattern making, sewing skills, and all of that stuff. There is some value in the fact that all of these skills are in the same person. That's the value. That's the difference. Because when you see modern machines making welted pockets, yes, they're good. They're so much good. Much better than us sometimes. Not in the case of welt pockets, but in some other cases that they're very, very good.
Yes.
With certain fabrics and all of that. But that is a machine. It can make only that thing, only that pockets. If you ask to make something else, that cannot make that. And also, they cannot tell how they made that stuff to other people, to clients, to apprentices, to colleagues. So this is it. We have to go undercover in the textile industry and make people in the trade, the people with money, understand, make them understand that there is so much value to invest in tailoring, in traditional tailoring, but just for the fact that it's a whole set of skills, a complete set of skills. You don't need anything else. Everything in one man.
Yes.
And I think that this is the right perspective to create some future for our crafts.
What would you do if tailoring became irrelevant tomorrow?
Probably I would continue. because
what a good answer.
but basically because first reason, I like to do that. Second reason, I'm not worried becoming a museum piece, because the how the business works in the art system is paramount to understand if we want to understand the chances we can have for the future. I mean, if I become a museum piece, I'm good. I'm good for life. I can make people pay like 20,000 euros for a suit. I'm good with it. But I'm not interested in that, because I don't want to be a living dead. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. No, I want to live in a world where I can talk with you, and I can see tomorrow that you had this crazy idea about jackets, and in the next 5 years, like everyone in the trade is doing that, creating possibilities to experiment, to change how the idea of dressing is perceived outside, and all of that stuff. But if this trade is only like making hand padded canvases and nice pockets, like both shaped or whatever, I can do that for a living, but I will study something else probably, and in the end, possibly I will just make my own clothes, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. How would you describe the current styles that you're creating and you're exploring?
I think that is completely Italian, but in a way, I have the ambition to say that. In a way, Italian tailoring has never been, which is, there is everything inside this kind of vision. There is Neapolitan tailoring, there is Roman tailoring, there is the success in the Eastern countries of Florentine tailoring, there is the Milanese tradition. Everything can be in the same in the same style. It's that jacket. And when I first tried to mix up things, I was skeptical. It was one of that prevented mistakes I was making. But actually, it came out quite good, because I think this stuff, I shouldn't say this about my own work, but now I am doing this. So. It's good. It has something to say. It is something, but it's not something I've already seen somewhere. Okay, because the canvases are made like the Romans do, but the color is made like Neapolitans do, and the balance of the front quarters is something I've seen only at the Chinese shops, because those guys are crazy about balancing quarters. So, so that's the idea, bringing all Italian tradition together and create. I mean, why British has British tailoring and Italy has not the British one, of course, the Italian one. Because we're all about the Neapolitan tailors do the soft shoulders, and which is by the way not true, because there are so many good tailors in Naples making traditional padded shoulders with clean ropes, and they're Neapolitan as well. So, but all of this can be more than just the region of the storytelling, once again, because it's basically a problem of storytelling, and tailors believe that. So Neapolitans started to do dinner jackets with wrinkles on sleeves, which is crazy. You know, as well as you want to do traditional stuff, you can call them tradition if you do a tuxedo with wrinkles on the shoulders.
Yeah. It seems as if you're bringing, let's say, multiple stories from across Italy all together and try to harmonize that to what you find pleasing aesthetically and technically.
Yeah, but also I'm trying to, not to do that. It's like a fruit salad, and it's not like this. It's the sense of how certain things are done. It's not the wrinkles on the sleeves. It's the sense of this.
Yes.
So maybe I will not have all of that wrinkles, but why that sleeve can be called Neapolitan? What's the sense and the difference between a Neapolitan sleeve and a Milanese one?
Right. So you're trying to extract the essence of it, more or less.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Painful job.
No, I can imagine it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of making the big mistakes that we talk about, and it's going through all of these procedures. But it is what one has to do in order to achieve the vision that you kind of have. Okay. I can talk to you for like 7 hours, I think. And I have many more questions that I actually won't have time, but maybe we will do like let's say another interview in a few months' time, and then see how it goes. Now, before we close off, I'd like to kind of like do a speed round of a few. I'll just throw in a few words, and then you tell me what you think about that word, and just say it in like within 3 seconds. Tailoring schools.
A good chance.
Good chance. Okay. Technology.
A huge chance.
Huge chance. Okay. Fashion.
Something worth to study, but not to believe in.
Okay. Books.
Something not to make a fetish of.
All right. Okay.
Books are a mean. It's the content of the book which is important, not the book itself.
Yes. Yeah. Very well said. Okay. Architecture.
It's a lens, a pair of lenses to see other things which are not buildings.
Okay. Let's see what else. Okay. Tailoring machines. So let's say pocket machines or sleeve machines or machines like that.
Tailoring machines. Tools to learn to exploit, but not to not to make a fetish of.
Right. Okay. Made to measure.
A very good business chance.
Right. And the last one, Pavarotti.
Someone that really doesn't look like me.
No, great, man. Hey, thank you so much for your time and for all the food for thought. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've got a lot of things to think about, a lot of interesting insights, and I hope that there are going to be more conversations like this because they're not necessarily. Yeah, it's not like just two tailors talking about pockets and lapels and this and that, but it's also everything else that surrounds our world of tailoring, let's say. So, Bernardo, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I look forward to speak to you again. So, as for now, I would say until the next time.
Next time, I should ask something to you as well.
Sure. No, that's okay. No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was Bernardo. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to see more from Bernardo's work, you can follow the link to his Instagram page in the description of this video. If you have any thoughts or comments, please let us know, and we sure hope to see you again in the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.